Hello! I would be very pleased if you would like the video. Subscribe so you don't miss new videos every day that will help you relax. I'm also curious where you are listening to me from and what time it is now. Write it in the comments. Enjoy watching! The first rays of sunlight stretched across the arid plains, igniting the sky in shades of orange, gold, and crimson. Cole McGraw stirred in his tent, the coarse wool blanket scratching against his forearms. His hand instinctively found the cold steel of his revolver resting beside him. Another day in the West had begun, and every day was a test of wit, nerve, and survival. The desert, though breathtaking, was merciless, and a moment's lapse could mean capture or death. Outside, the camp was slowly waking. Horses stamped in the corrals, their hooves raising dust that shimmered in the morning light. Men adjusted saddles, cleaned weapons, and whispered instructions. Each movement was calculated, precise. Cole emerged from the tent, squinting against the sun. The wind carried the familiar scent of sagebrush and smoke from the small cooking fires. The landscape, both hostile and beautiful, had shaped him into the man he was. Cunning, fearless, and relentless. Breakfast was a muted affair. Cole joined Jasper, his wiry lieutenant, at a fire pit where beans and bacon sizzled. The smell was tempting, but both men ate in silence, understanding the value of discretion. Cole chewed slowly, savoring the food but always alert. He had learned long ago that chatter could carry beyond the camp. Danger could appear from any ridge or brush, and the law was patient, methodical, and persistent. One slip, one careless word, and their freedom could vanish. "Got news from Wyatt," Jasper said finally, breaking the quiet. Cole's eyes flicked up, immediately alert. "The Thompson stagecoach passes through Red Mesa around noon," Jasper continued. "Loaded with gold, plenty of it." Cole's pulse quickened. Every outlaw dreamed of such a score, but it carried risk. The law would be on alert, and rival gangs might be waiting. He nodded, feeling the familiar adrenaline. Planning, timing, and execution were crucial. Mistakes were fatal in the West. By mid-morning, the gang mounted their horses and slipped out of the camp, moving quietly across the undulating desert. Dust rose behind them, forming hazy columns that mingled with the sunlight. Cole's mind was alert, tracking every ridge, every shadow. The terrain was both ally and enemy. It offered cover but also hid threats. He studied the distant hills, plotting their path to the canyon where the stagecoach route narrowed. There, the ambush could be precise, swift, and decisive. The canyon came into view, its jagged cliffs casting dark shadows across the trail. Cole signaled to his men to dismount and take cover behind boulders and scrub. Every movement was deliberate. The stillness of the canyon made the air feel heavy, almost electric. Horses stamped nervously, sensing tension. Cole's eyes scanned every inch of the landscape. He could feel the pulse of the desert, the silent heartbeat of danger. The stagecoach would appear any moment, and every second mattered. Then, on the distant trail, the rumble of wheels broke the silence. The stagecoach emerged, lumbering forward, unaware of the threat. Cole's breath steadied, heart racing with anticipation. He motioned for the gang to hold. Timing was critical. One wrong move could alert the driver and passengers, spoiling the ambush. He counted silently, calculating the angle of approach, the distance, and the positions of his men. Everything had to align perfectly. At the signal, the gang sprang from their cover, shouting and firing into the air. The horses bolted, passengers screamed, and the stagecoach driver struggled with the reins. Chaos enveloped the canyon. Cole moved with precision, firing into the air to maintain control, ensuring no one was gravely hurt but the gold could be taken. The clash of gunfire against rock echoed off the canyon walls, a symphony of adrenaline, danger, and raw energy. Every sense was heightened, every decision instantaneous. Within minutes, the stagecoach was immobilized, the passengers terrified but unharmed. The gang quickly secured the gold, distributing it among themselves. Cole counted his share, the coins heavy in his pocket. Each coin was both victory and curse, symbolizing freedom but also attracting pursuit. In the West, fortune was never quiet. Every success invited danger, every score a potential trap. Cole savored the thrill, aware that his life depended on both cunning and luck. As the sun climbed toward midday, The gang began retreating into the hills, leaving behind the echoes of panic and gunfire. Cole rode at the rear, eyes sweeping the horizon for any sign of pursuit. The desert stretched endlessly, beautiful and unforgiving. Every ridge, every shadow could conceal danger or opportunity. Cole thought of the countless days spent evading lawmen, rival gangs, and the unforgiving wilderness. The West demanded constant vigilance, and he thrived on it. By late morning, they reached a hidden path along a rocky outcrop, a route only known to them. Horses strained under the weight of the loot, but Cole's mind raced ahead, planning the next steps. They needed a secure place to rest, scout for danger, and prepare for the inevitable pursuit. Even a brief pause could be deadly if lawmen discovered their location. Yet, despite the tension, Cole felt alive in a way no other life could offer. The West, harsh and untamed, was his domain. The canyon faded behind them as Cole and his gang raced across the desert, dust clouds trailing like ghosts in their wake. The sun burned high in the sky, harsh and relentless, stinging necks and hands. Every horse hoof and ragged breath reminded Cole of the lawmen likely on their trail. The desert was unforgiving, and mistakes could be fatal. He scanned the horizon, searching for paths and ambush points alike. Jasper rode beside him, his wiry frame tense with excitement. "Think they'll follow us through Black Ridge?" he asked, voice taut with nervous energy. Cole shook his head, eyes fixed on the distant ridges. "Not straight. They'll try, but they're predictable. We think ahead. We survive because we plan. We adapt, and we strike when they least expect it." His words were both warning and encouragement. They reached a rocky rise that overlooked the plains, the land stretching endless under the scorching sun. Cole slowed his horse, pointing to a narrow trail winding along the ridge. "This is our route. Quiet now. Move fast if you hear pursuit." The men nodded, muscles taut with anticipation. Every wrong move could be deadly. The West did not forgive error. Every day was a gamble, and Cole played it better than most. Hours passed in tense silence. The gang moved like shadows across the uneven terrain, hooves barely stirring the dust. The sun beat down relentlessly, sweat stinging eyes and skin. Cole's mind raced ahead, imagining every possible scenario. Each ridge could conceal enemies, each shadow could hide death. Yet, in these moments, he felt alive, alert, and in command. The desert was his hunting ground, the law his prey. By mid-afternoon, they reached a hidden watering hole, a small oasis known only to Cole and his closest men. Horses drank deeply, their ears flicking at every sound. The men took a brief respite, wiping sweat from their faces and checking weapons. Cole counted his share of the stagecoach gold, each coin heavy in his pocket. Wealth came with risk, but it also bought freedom. In the West, freedom was worth any danger. Cole remained watchful, scanning the hills even as men rested. He sent scouts in pairs to circle the area, ears tuned for the slightest hint of pursuit. Every sense was alert, the whisper of wind, the rustle of brush, the distant cry of a bird. Danger could appear anywhere. The law was patient, and rival gangs were cunning. They all sought what Cole had won. He could not afford complacency. As the sun began its descent, Cole plotted their next move. The gang would need to travel under cover of fading light, taking hidden trails to lose any pursuers. The desert was a labyrinth of rocks, canyons, and ridges. For those who knew it, it offered sanctuary. For those who did not, death. Cole had learned every curve, every hidden path. His survival depended on it. Nightfall approached, painting the desert in shades of violet and deep orange. The air cooled, and shadows grew long and ominous. Cole led his men into a narrow canyon, a perfect place to rest for a few hours. Fires were small, hidden, providing minimal light. Conversation was sparse. The desert demanded quiet. Every sound carried far in the still night, and a single mistake could draw attention from miles away. While the men tended horses and checked weapons, Cole walked the perimeter, revolver ready, eyes scanning the darkening landscape. Thoughts of past escapes mingled with strategies for the next raid. Every day was a battle against time, law, and fortune. Yet in this endless tension, he felt mastery. The West was dangerous, but it also rewarded skill, courage, and cunning. Cole possessed all three. Hours passed with nothing but the soft sounds of the desert night. Coyotes howled in the distance, and the wind whispered through rocky crevices. Cole's men slept fitfully, exhaustion pulling at their limbs. Cole himself remained mostly awake, listening, planning, calculating. A leader's mind could not rest. Every action, every route, every decision could mean life or death. The West did not forgive mistakes. By midnight, the camp was silent. The gold remained safe, horses calm, and the law still distant. Cole leaned against a boulder, staring at the stars. They were bright, cold, indifferent, but beautiful in a way that reminded him why he thrived in this harsh land. Tomorrow would bring new risks, new raids, new chases, but tonight they had survived. And survival, in the Wild West, was victory enough. The fading sun cast long, jagged shadows across the rocky hills as Cole McGraw rode ahead, senses sharpened to every sound. Dust swirled in distant columns, betraying the approach of lawmen. His hand instinctively found the grip of his revolver, heart pounding with familiar adrenaline. "Get ready," he whispered to Jasper and the others. Silence fell over the gang, heavy and tense, broken only by the soft creak of leather and the distant clatter of hooves. Cole signaled the men to dismount and take cover behind rocks and sparse scrub. The lawmen approached cautiously, forming a wedge along the narrow canyon trail. Cole studied their formation, calculating angles and distances. Timing was critical. One misstep, one premature shot, could turn the ambush against them. The men followed his lead, crouching low, muscles taut with anticipation, eyes scanning the desert for every movement. Suddenly, gunfire erupted. Bullets struck stone and earth, sending shards of rock scattering. Cole fired deliberately, moving from cover to cover, forcing the lawmen to hesitate. He could feel the rhythm of the skirmish, every breath and heartbeat synchronized with the chaos around him. The men moved like shadows, striking unpredictably and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Cole's mind worked furiously, anticipating each move, each retreat, each potential trap. Jasper ducked behind a boulder, narrowly avoiding a ricochet. "Cole, they're pressing hard," he shouted, voice edged with fear. Cole clenched his teeth. "Keep calm. Split them up. Don't let them pin us." He gestured to two men to circle the rocks, cutting off the pursuer's path. The lawmen hesitated, thrown off balance by the sudden maneuver. Every second bought them breathing room. Every move tested their cunning. Survival depended on wits as much as firepower. The exchange continued, tense and brutal, with the desert canyon amplifying every sound. Cole's revolver roared again, and a lawman fell behind a ridge. His men adapted, covering flanks and communicating through subtle gestures. Cole's mind was a machine of calculation. Which paths to retreat, which rocks offered cover, how to conserve ammunition while maximizing chaos. Every step, every shot, every glance was life or death in motion. After minutes that felt like hours, the lawmen realized the ambush had failed. They retreated, regrouping at a safer distance, shouting orders and cursing their misjudgment. Cole emerged from cover, chest heaving, eyes scanning for stragglers. The gang assembled, counting heads, checking weapons, and catching breath. No one was gravely injured, but the encounter reminded them all of the razor-thin line they walked between freedom and capture. Cole surveyed the horizon, calculating their next move. The gold remained secure, but the law would not give up. He needed a safe place to rest, a hidden refuge to regroup and plan the next day's moves. "We move before dark," he said, voice low but firm. The men nodded, understanding the urgency. The West was merciless. Speed, cunning, and vigilance were survival tools as essential as bullets and horses. The gang mounted their horses once more, moving along a concealed path known only to Cole. Dust trailed them as the sun sank, and shadows stretched across the desert floor. Every ridge, every boulder, could conceal danger or opportunity. Cole's mind raced with possibilities. Rival gangs, lawmen, unforeseen obstacles. Yet he thrived under pressure, the chaos sharpening his senses, each decision a calculated step toward survival. Night began to fall, draping the desert in deep purples and blues. Cole led the men into a narrow canyon, an ideal temporary shelter. Fires were low, just enough to provide warmth and light. Conversation was minimal. The desert demanded silence. Every rustle could betray their position. Every spark could be seen for miles. Cole knew the terrain intimately, yet he remained alert. Knowledge alone did not guarantee safety. The gang settled for the night, horses grazing cautiously, men checking weapons and supplies. Cole walked the perimeter, revolver ready, eyes piercing the darkness. Memories of past escapes mingled with plans for future raids. Every day was a gamble. Every decision carried weight. The West was as cruel as it was beautiful, rewarding skill but punishing error. Cole embraced the challenge, his mind always calculating, always vigilant. Stars twinkled cold and distant above, indifferent witnesses to the human struggle below. Cole leaned against a boulder, listening to the desert night. The soft hiss of wind, the distant howl of a coyote, the subtle movement of his men. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, new chases, new conflicts. Yet tonight, they had survived. In the Wild West, survival was victory, and for Cole McGraw, victory was life itself. The narrow canyon provided a temporary haven. Shadows stretched long across jagged rocks as Cole's gang settled in for the night. Horses grazed quietly, ears flicking at every subtle sound. Fires were small, carefully hidden to avoid detection. Even in moments of rest, tension hung in the air like a heavy blanket. The West demanded vigilance. Complacency was a luxury no outlaw could afford. Cole walked among his men, checking weapons and distributing rations. The gold from the stagecoach remained secure, yet he felt the familiar weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. Each man depended on him, and any mistake could be fatal. He paused near Jasper, studying the young outlaw's nervous expression. "Keep your head clear," he said quietly. "Tonight we rest, but we plan. Every move counts." The men huddled near the hidden fire, whispering in low tones. Some laughed quietly, trying to ease the tension. Others stared into the flames, lost in thought. Cole remained apart, surveying the rocky terrain. The canyon walls offered protection, but they also confined them. Any sudden noise could carry, and any careless action could draw the lawmen back to their hidden refuge. He couldn't allow that. Tension surfaced as arguments broke out over small details. Who would watch the perimeter, how long the horses would be tethered, and which trails were safest for the next day. Cole intervened, calm but firm. "Focus on what matters," he said. "Dispute only weakens us. Keep your eyes sharp, your hands steady, and your minds clear. That's the only law that matters here." The men nodded, respecting his authority, though unease lingered. Jasper approached Cole later, voice low. "Think they'll catch us, Cole?" he asked. The older outlaw shook his head. "Not if we stick to the plan. They're good, but predictable. We've done this before. We survive because we think ahead, adapt, and move faster than they expect." Cole's eyes scanned the canyon walls, reflecting the flickering firelight. Every shadow could be an enemy, every ridge a trap. Night deepened, and the wind shifted through the canyon, carrying distant sounds of coyotes and rustling rocks. Cole sent out scouts, pairs moving silently among the boulders to monitor any approach. The lawmen were patient, but so was he. Patience in the West was power, and Cole had mastered it. He knew every twist in the canyon, every hidden path, and every vantage point that could offer safety or a tactical advantage. Hours passed with little disturbance. The men rested fitfully, horses standing quietly, and the gold remained untouched. Cole's thoughts drifted to the coming days. More heists, more risks, more chases. Each victory brought reward, but also increased danger. Yet in the thrill of the chase, in the careful planning of ambushes, Cole felt alive. The West, harsh and untamed, demanded skill, and he possessed it in abundance. A faint rustle echoed from the canyon entrance, pulling Cole from his reverie. He moved quietly, revolver ready, eyes sharp. 2 scouts returned, shaking their heads. "All clear," one whispered. Cole exhaled slowly, tension easing slightly. Still, he knew better than to relax fully. In the West, calm was temporary, and danger often arrived without warning. Every moment required vigilance, every breath was a gift earned. As midnight passed, the camp settled into near silence. Fires dwindled to embers, and men huddled close to conserve warmth. Cole remained on alert, walking the perimeter, mind sharp, revolver within easy reach. Thoughts of strategy, escape routes, and contingencies filled his mind. The West was a chessboard, and he moved with precision, anticipating threats before they appeared. His life, and the lives of his men, depended on it. Stars glimmered coldly above, indifferent to the struggles below. Cole's gaze lingered on the distant horizon, imagining future raids, potential allies, and lurking enemies. Tomorrow would bring challenges, tracking stagecoaches, evading lawmen, and navigating rival gangs. Each day was a gamble, but each successful survival reinforced his legend. In the Wild West, survival was the ultimate victory, and Cole McGraw intended to win every day he drew breath. Before finally resting, Cole gathered his men briefly, laying out the plan for dawn. "We move at first light," he instructed. "Take only what we need. Keep quiet. Every move counts. The law will be watching, but they won't expect the path we've chosen. Stick to the plan, and we survive." The men nodded, tension giving way to grim determination. In the silence of the canyon, each man prepared for another day in the unforgiving West. Dawn broke slowly over the rugged hills, casting long shadows across the desert floor. Cole McGraw stirred first, muscles tight from the previous day's exertion. He checked the revolver at his hip, ran his fingers over the worn leather grip, and listened to the quiet stirrings of his gang. Every sound mattered. Even the faint whisper of the wind could betray movement. The West demanded constant vigilance. Horses were saddled silently, hooves barely stirring the dust as the men prepared to move. Cole addressed the gang in low tones, outlining the plan for intercepting the Dalton shipment. "Keep your eyes sharp and ears sharper," he said. "Timing is everything. We strike, we take what we came for, and we vanish before they know what hit them." The men nodded, a mix of excitement and tension in their eyes. The terrain was harsh, rocky ridges and scrubby bushes hiding the path ahead. Cole led the way, riding at the front to scout for obstacles and potential threats. Every ridge and boulder could conceal lawmen, every shadow could hide danger. Yet he thrived in the uncertainty, each calculated risk feeding the adrenaline that drove him. The West was unforgiving, but he was its master. Hours passed as they navigated hidden trails, moving with deliberate caution. Dust rose behind them in faint clouds, dissipating quickly in the hot morning air. Cole's mind raced with contingencies. What if the law had scouts ahead? What if rival gangs lay in wait? What if the shipment was heavily guarded? Every scenario demanded a plan. Every plan required precision. Mistakes could mean capture or death. By late morning, the Dalton shipment appeared, a small convoy of wagons guarded by armed men. Cole signaled the gang to take positions behind rocks and low hills. Silence was key. Any premature action could alert the guards. He studied the wagons, noting the driver's posture, the guards' movements, and the terrain. Timing was everything. One miscalculated move could turn fortune into disaster. At the signal, the gang struck. Shouts echoed across the canyon as bullets tore into the air. Horses reared, drivers shouted, and guards scrambled to defend the convoy. Cole fired with precision, directing his men with subtle gestures. Chaos erupted, a controlled storm orchestrated by his careful planning. Every shot, every movement had a purpose. The lawmen were skilled, but Cole's planning gave him the advantage. The Daltons were caught off guard, unable to react effectively. Cole's men disabled the wagons, rounding up the shipment without casualties. Gold, supplies, and valuables were seized quickly, distributed among the gang. Cole counted his share, heavy coins pressing against his palm, each one a symbol of both triumph and danger. The exhilaration of the heist coursed through his veins. Success was intoxicating, yet even as the gang celebrated silently, Cole's mind remained alert. The law would respond, and rival gangs might be nearby. There was no time for complacency. He signaled the retreat, the men mounting their horses once more and melting into the desert. Every step was calculated, every path chosen to maximize safety and evade pursuit. The West rewarded speed, cunning, and foresight. Cole had all three in abundance. The sun climbed higher, baking the desert sands as they rode through hidden trails and rocky passes. Cole's eyes scanned constantly, noting every ridge and shadow. The terrain was both ally and enemy, offering cover but hiding danger. He thought of past escapes, past heists, and the delicate balance of fortune that kept him alive. Each victory brought wealth, yes, but also the inevitable scrutiny of the law. By mid-afternoon, the gang reached a secluded canyon to rest. Horses drank from a small stream, the men wiped sweat from their sunburned faces, and weapons were checked and reloaded. Cole reviewed the day's events, adjusting plans for the next move. Success was temporary. Survival depended on preparation. He would not allow overconfidence to erode their advantage. Every day was a chess game against lawmen, rivals, and the unforgiving wilderness. As evening approached, Cole walked among his men, reinforcing strategy and readiness. The West was unpredictable, and even a flawless plan could unravel in a heartbeat. Yet he thrived in this chaos, drawing strength from his ability to adapt, to anticipate, and to act decisively. The desert was harsh, the law relentless, but Cole McGraw had survived longer than most. Tonight, he reminded himself, they would rest, but tomorrow would demand every ounce of cunning and courage. The sun dipped low, casting a fiery glow over the desert hills as Cole and his gang rode swiftly through the rugged terrain. Dust clouds trailed behind them, curling in ghostly shapes across the fading light. Cole's eyes scanned every ridge, every shadow, alert for any hint of pursuit. The West offered no mercy, the law was relentless, and rival gangs always lurking. Jasper rode close, his nerves taut as he followed Cole's lead. "Do you think they know where we are?" he asked, voice tight with tension. Cole shook his head. "Not yet, but we can't assume they won't find us. Stay sharp. Every sound, every movement counts." The wind shifted, carrying distant clatters that could be nothing, or the first sign of trouble. They navigated a series of hidden trails, the horses' hooves barely stirring the loose sand. Cole calculated each step, considering the quickest escape routes and safest cover. Every canyon, ridge, and crevice was a potential advantage or a deadly trap. The lawmen were patient, but so was he. Knowledge of the land and quick reflexes were the difference between freedom and capture. Suddenly, the distant echo of gunfire shattered the desert stillness. Cole signaled the gang to dismount and take cover behind large boulders. His heart pounded. They had been discovered by a small law patrol, probably scouts tracking the Dalton shipment's fate. Bullets hissed past, striking stone and sand, forcing the men to move cautiously. Timing and strategy were vital. Cole directed his men with subtle gestures, moving in a coordinated pattern that used the canyon's natural cover. Each shot was deliberate, each movement precise. The lawmen were skilled, but Cole's knowledge of terrain gave him an edge. The clash was tense, a deadly game of patience and accuracy. Every decision could shift the balance, turning pursuit into disaster, or survival. Jasper ducked behind a rock, narrowly avoiding a ricochet. "They're pushing hard," he shouted. Cole clenched his teeth. "Split them up. Don't let them pin us. Move fast and unpredictable." Two men circled to flank the pursuers, forcing them to hesitate and regroup. Every second gained meant a higher chance of escape. In the West, hesitation could cost lives, and Cole intended to survive. After a tense half-hour, the patrol withdrew temporarily, regrouping on higher ground. Cole exhaled slowly, scanning the horizon. The danger had passed, for now, but he knew the law would return, more determined and numerous. The men reassembled, checking weapons and horses. None were injured, but the encounter reminded them of the constant peril surrounding every outlaw's life. Cole led the gang to a narrow canyon hidden by brush and boulders, an ideal temporary refuge. Fires were kept small, conversation minimal, and scouts were sent to circle the area. Every rustle, every whisper of wind, could betray their position. The West demanded total alertness. Complacency could be fatal, and Cole's leadership kept the gang disciplined, focused, and ready. While the men rested briefly, Cole fought ahead. The Dalton shipment gold was safe, but staying in one place too long was dangerous. He mapped potential escape routes in his mind, noting ridges, hidden valleys, and less obvious paths. The desert offered sanctuary to those who knew it, but the ignorant or unwary could die trying to cross it. Knowledge was life, and Cole had mastered the West's geography. Night fell, painting the canyon in muted purples and blues. Cole paced, revolver at the ready, listening to the desert sounds. Coyotes called in the distance, and rocks shifted subtly under unseen creatures. Even in moments of relative calm, danger was never far. He reviewed every contingency in his mind. What if the law returned in force? What if rival gangs tried to intercept them? What if the horses stumbled or the gold was lost? Each thought was preparation. By midnight, the camp was quiet. Men huddled near the low fire, exhaustion and vigilance battling each other. Cole remained awake, walking the perimeter, eyes piercing the darkness. The West rewarded careful planning and punished recklessness. Each day was a gamble, each night a test of skill and alertness. For Cole McGraw, survival depended not just on gunfire, but on foresight, intuition, and the ability to act decisively under pressure. Stars glittered above, cold and distant, indifferent to human struggles below. Cole's gaze lingered on the horizon, imagining the challenges ahead. Tomorrow would bring new pursuits, new dangers, and new opportunities. But tonight, the gang had survived. The law had tested them, and they had prevailed. In the harsh, untamed West, survival was victory, and Cole McGraw had mastered the art of staying one step ahead. The morning sun burned off the lingering mist, revealing the harsh ridges of the desert. Cole McGraw led his gang along a narrow trail that overlooked the valley below. The Dalton shipment gold was safe, but rival gangs had likely learned of their location. Cole's instincts told him they weren't alone. Every shadow, every gust of wind, carried the potential for danger. "Riders ahead," Jasper whispered, pointing toward the distant ridge. Cole raised a hand to signal silence. The gang dismounted, moving cautiously along the rocky slope. He scanned the terrain, calculating angles, estimating distances, and planning contingencies. The West was a land of risk and reward, and one wrong step could turn advantage into disaster. Cole thrived on this tension, his mind sharp and calculating. The rival gang appeared, armed and impatient, advancing toward the Dalton gold. Cole assessed their numbers and positions. He gestured subtly to his men, splitting them into flanking groups. Every movement was choreographed, a dance of shadows and precision. The element of surprise was their greatest weapon, and Cole intended to use it fully. Timing and patience were crucial. As the first shots rang out, dust and pebbles erupted from the ridge. Cole fired deliberately, forcing the rival gang to hesitate. The echo bounced off the canyon walls, amplifying the chaos. His men struck from hidden cover, moving silently but with deadly intent. The confrontation was fierce, a calculated exchange of fire, positioning, and intimidation. Every decision Cole made could save lives or seal disaster. Jasper ducked behind a boulder, heart pounding as bullets whizzed past. "Cole, they're regrouping," he shouted. Cole clenched his teeth. "Hold steady. Keep flanking. Don't let them pin us." Two men moved to the side, circling the rivals, cutting off escape routes. The opposing gang faltered, thrown off balance by Cole's strategic maneuvers. Each second gained was a step toward control and victory. The skirmish escalated, a whirlwind of gunfire and shouting, echoing through the canyon. Cole's movements were precise, every shot and gesture deliberate. His men followed instinctively, trained to read his subtle cues. The battle was chaotic, yet Cole's command maintained order amid the frenzy. In the West, control and chaos often existed side by side, and mastery of both was essential. After tense minutes, the rival gang retreated, leaving behind a few supplies and their pride. Cole's men regrouped, counting their numbers and checking weapons. No lives were lost, but the encounter reinforced the harsh reality. The West was unforgiving, and victory was temporary. Every success demanded vigilance, every respite required readiness for the next challenge. Cole surveyed the horizon, anticipating the lawmen's response. The Dalton gold was still theirs, but the risk had increased. Every ridge and canyon could conceal danger. "We move before nightfall," he ordered. "Keep low, keep quiet, and watch each other's backs." The men obeyed without hesitation, their trust in Cole absolute. Survival depended on discipline, cunning, and speed. As the day wore on, the gang navigated hidden trails, avoiding obvious paths and obvious danger. The desert sun blazed overhead, relentless and unforgiving. Cole's mind raced with contingencies. Lawmen, rival gangs, sudden storms, or even internal mistakes. Each factor required planning, foresight, and swift execution. The West tolerated no errors. Only the sharpest and fastest survived. By late afternoon, the gang reached a secluded canyon for temporary shelter. Fires were kept small, hidden in natural depressions. Horses were tethered to large boulders, and scouts were dispatched to monitor distant ridges. Even in moments of rest, vigilance was paramount. The West demanded alertness. Complacency could be fatal, and Cole ensured no one relaxed too soon. Nightfall brought relief from the sun, but the desert remained a place of danger. Cole walked the perimeter, revolver at the ready, listening to the soft sounds of wind and distant animals. Thoughts of strategy, escape, and future raids filled his mind. Every decision could shape their fate, every moment required careful attention. The West rewarded skill, cunning, and courage above all else. As stars glittered coldly overhead, Cole gathered the gang for a brief discussion of the next day's moves. "We strike only when we have advantage," he instructed. "Never underestimate the land, the law, or our enemies. Stick to the plan, trust your instincts, and watch each other. Survival depends on all of us." The men nodded, a mix of exhaustion and determination in their eyes. The night was quiet, but tomorrow promised more challenges. The night was thick with shadows as Cole's gang settled into a hidden canyon, the faint glow of embers illuminating anxious faces. The day's skirmish had left everyone on edge. Even in victory, tension lingered like smoke over dry brush. The West was unforgiving, and every decision carried weight. Cole sensed unease brewing among his men. Subtle but dangerous. Jasper shifted nervously, glancing at the others. "Cole, maybe we should split up for a while," he suggested, voice low. Cole's eyes narrowed. "Split up? That's reckless. Our strength is in unity. The moment we fracture, we're vulnerable. You need to trust me." The young outlaw nodded reluctantly, but doubt lingered. Leadership in the West was as much about managing fear as it was about fighting foes. Other members murmured quietly among themselves, weighing risk against reward. Some questioned the pace of the raids. Others doubted the wisdom of returning to familiar trails. Cole overheard snippets, each one a reminder that even loyalty could waver under pressure. The West was harsh not only because of lawmen and rival gangs, but because fear could corrode trust faster than bullets ever could. Cole gathered the gang for a brief council. "We move at first light," he instructed. "We follow the hidden path through Devil's Pass. Keep your eyes open, your weapons ready. We do not engage unless necessary. Understand?" The men nodded, some more confidently than others. Cole's tone left no room for argument. Discipline was survival, and he would tolerate nothing less. Even as the gang prepared for the next day, whispers of dissent continued. Some complained about the constant risk. Others feared retaliation from rival gangs. Cole remained vigilant, scanning faces and listening for tone. Leadership in the West demanded both action and awareness. A single misstep in judgment could turn a loyal companion into a liability or a traitor. At dawn, the gang mounted horses quietly, moving along the concealed trail. Cole led, eyes alert, scanning ridges and shadows for any hint of pursuit. The Dalton gold pressed against their saddlebags, both a reward and a magnet for danger. Every step was a calculated risk. Every sound was amplified in the tense silence. The West was alive, and so was every threat within it. Suddenly, a loose stone rolled across the path, startling a horse and drawing the attention of the gang. Cole's hand shot to his revolver, heart pounding. It was nothing more than gravity, but the spike of adrenaline reminded everyone how precarious their position was. In the West, even the smallest occurrence could cascade into disaster. Calm nerves and swift reflexes were the difference between life and death. As they continued, Cole spotted movement in the distant ridges. "Stop," he commanded, dismounting silently. The gang crouched behind rocks, eyes straining. It was a rival gang, clearly aware of the Dalton gold, moving with caution but intent. Cole assessed their numbers, positions, and likely strategy. The situation demanded a choice: engage, retreat, or outmaneuver. Each option carried risk. He signaled a plan to flank the rival gang, moving quietly and deliberately. The men obeyed, every step calculated, every motion precise. This was the West in its purest form, a dance of strategy, patience, and daring. Every outcome hinged on timing and intuition, and Cole thrived in that delicate balance. Success required foresight, courage, and trust in his own judgment. The flanking maneuver placed the gang in a decisive position. Cole's men could strike from cover while minimizing exposure. The rivals faltered, sensing danger but uncertain of its origin. Cole's voice remained calm as he directed movements with subtle gestures. The tension was palpable. The desert itself seemed to hold its breath. The West demanded respect, and Cole commanded it. Moments later, the rivals retreated, thwarted by Cole's strategy and the gang's coordination. Relief washed over the men, but it was tempered by exhaustion and lingering doubts. Cole knew that internal tension could be as deadly as any bullet. Leadership required more than tactics. It required management of fear, ambition, and loyalty. Only by maintaining cohesion could they survive. As night fell, the gang settled in a hidden alcove, fires small and controlled. Cole walked the perimeter, revolver in hand, assessing both terrain and morale. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new heists, and new dangers. Yet tonight, survival meant both caution and reflection. The West demanded constant vigilance, but also resilience, and Cole had honed both to perfection. The stars glittered above, indifferent to human struggles. Cole leaned against a boulder, thinking of tomorrow, of strategy, of keeping the men united. Fear was an enemy just as lethal as any lawman or rival. Trust and discipline were their armor. In the unforgiving West, the gang's unity and Cole's leadership would determine whether they thrived or perished. Dawn painted the desert in pale gold as Cole McGraw and his gang mounted their horses. The Dalton gold pressed heavily in their saddlebags, a reminder of both reward and peril. Word of their exploits had spread, and the law was relentless. Every ridge, every canyon could conceal pursuers. The West demanded constant alertness, and Cole thrived on the tension. Jasper rode beside him, voice tense. "They're behind us, Cole. I see dust clouds in the distance." Cole's eyes narrowed, scanning the horizon. "Stay calm. We knew this day would come. Watch your flanks, stick to the hidden trails, and trust your instincts." Every movement was critical. Every decision could mean life or death. The desert was a dangerous ally. The gang navigated narrow passes and rocky ridges, horses straining under the weight of both riders and gold. Cole's mind raced with contingencies. Lawmen ahead, rival gangs trying to intercept, and the ever-present risk of ambush. Each ridge could be a trap, each canyon a dead end. But Cole had learned to anticipate danger, turning the desert into both shield and weapon. Suddenly, gunfire erupted from a distant ridge. Cole raised his hand, signaling the gang to dismount and take cover. The lawmen had caught up, pressing hard. Bullets shattered rock and dirt, forcing the gang into a defensive position. Cole's revolver barked in rapid succession, precise and controlled. Each shot was calculated, aimed not just to defend, but to manipulate the enemy's movement. Jasper ducked behind a boulder, shouting, "Cole, they're splitting up." Cole clenched his teeth. "Good. Keep pressure on them. Don't let them regroup. Move fast. Move smart." Two men circled the attackers, forcing confusion and slowing their advance. The desert echoed with gunfire and shouts, a chaotic symphony of survival. Timing, strategy, and nerve were everything. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Dust clouds mingled with the heat, obscuring vision. Cole's men moved with coordinated precision, striking from cover and retreating before the lawmen could respond. The chase was relentless, each second demanding instinct, skill, and courage. In the West, hesitation was fatal, and Cole had none. The lawmen began to falter, misjudging terrain and Cole's maneuvers. The gang pressed forward, using hidden passes and rugged cliffs to maintain advantage. Each ridge climbed, each canyon navigated, brought them closer to temporary safety. The Dalton gold remained secure, but the chase tested every ounce of stamina, cunning, and cohesion. Survival was a game of nerves, skill, and trust. As the sun climbed higher, the gang spotted a narrow gorge known only to Cole. Through there, he commanded, leading the men at a controlled gallop. The lawmen followed, but the terrain slowed them, giving the gang the advantage. Cole's heart pounded with adrenaline, each beat a reminder of the stakes. The West demanded precision, and mistakes were unforgivable. The gorge funneled the pursuers into a narrow bottleneck. Cole signaled a brief ambush, forcing the lawmen to retreat with confusion and injury. The gang pressed on, dust and sweat clinging to skin, muscles straining. Every rider relied on the others, every movement synchronized. Leadership, trust, and skill were their only shields against capture or death. By late afternoon, the gang emerged from the gorge into open desert. The horizon stretched endlessly, offering both freedom and exposure. Cole scanned the distance for threats, but relief softened tension for the first time that day. The law had been repelled, the Dalton gold remained theirs, and their survival had been tested to the limit. Every man was exhausted, yet exhilarated. Cole signaled a slow, cautious ride toward a hidden canyon far from known trails. Horses were tired, men weary, but the desert offered sanctuary. Every step, every decision, had led to this moment. The West was unforgiving, but the gang had survived. Cole's reputation, already formidable, had grown. Victory was fleeting, but survival, and the skill to achieve it, was all that mattered. As night fell, the gang settled in the secluded canyon, fires low and controlled. Cole walked the perimeter, revolver ready, eyes scanning the horizon. Stars glittered above, indifferent to the struggles below. He allowed himself a moment to reflect on the day. Every maneuver, every risk, every calculation had kept them alive. In the West, survival was the ultimate triumph, and tonight, they had won. The desert night was still oppressive in its silence, as Cole McGraw surveyed the hidden canyon where his gang had taken refuge. Stars stretched coldly across the sky, indifferent witnesses to human struggle and ambition. The Dalton gold rested safely, but the day's relentless chase had left everyone tense and exhausted. Cole's eyes flicked over each man, reading exhaustion, fear, and unspoken doubt. Leadership was not merely about planning raids or firing guns. It was about holding the fragile web of loyalty together, especially after every skirmish, ambush, and close escape. Jasper sat quietly near a dim fire, polishing his revolver with meticulous care. He glanced at Cole, unsure whether to speak or remain silent. "Cole, what now? We've survived the law, rival gangs, and that hellish chase, but how long can this last?" Cole's gaze met his, unwavering and calm. "As long as we keep moving smart, trust each other, and never underestimate the West. One slip, one false move, and it's over. But tonight, we rest. Tomorrow, we move." The men murmured quietly among themselves, some tending horses, others securing supplies. Each knew that the day had tested their skills and resolve. Every victory was shadowed by potential danger, and the desert offered no comfort, only challenges. Cole walked the perimeter of the camp, revolver in hand, senses attuned to even the faintest sound, a branch snapping, wind shifting, the distant howl of a coyote. Hours passed in tense silence. Cole remained alert, his mind running through every scenario for the days ahead. He envisioned routes through the canyon, hidden valleys, and rocky ridges that would shield them from the law. He imagined every possible encounter, from rival gangs to the unexpected, animals, storms, or human betrayal. Each contingency required meticulous planning. In the West, foresight was survival. As the night deepened, Cole allowed himself a brief reflection. Memories of past raids and escapes mingled with thoughts of the men beside him. Loyalty was tested in fire, and he had earned theirs through skill, daring, and careful calculation. Yet he knew the desert demanded more than courage. It demanded vigilance, cunning, and an unwavering mind. Every breath taken in this harsh land was earned. At first light, Cole roused the gang. Horses were saddled, and the men mounted silently, muscles tense from the previous day's exertions. The hidden canyon provided temporary safety, but exposure awaited beyond. Cole led the way through a narrow, winding trail known only to him. The Dalton gold weighed heavily, but more dangerous was the burden of knowledge. He knew the law would soon attempt another pursuit, and rival gangs would be watching. By mid-morning, the desert stretched endlessly, a sea of ridges, gullies, and dry brush. Cole scanned the horizon, noting each potential vantage point for enemies. He instructed the men on contingency positions. If ambushed, flank left. If trapped, retreat through Devil's Pass. His mind moved constantly, predicting outcomes, assigning roles, calculating risk. The West was unforgiving, and survival was dictated by anticipation as much as by firepower. Suddenly, a distant cloud of dust signaled movement. Lawmen, pursuing with relentless determination. Cole gestured for the gang to dismount and take cover behind boulders. The pursuit had begun. Gunfire erupted in the distance, echoing through the canyon. Cole's revolver cracked in precise bursts, forcing enemies to hesitate. His men followed his lead, striking and retreating with calculated speed. The desert was alive with chaos, but in that chaos, Cole found clarity. The chase continued for hours. Horses strained, dust stung eyes, and muscles screamed with fatigue. Cole's mind was a machine, calculating every step, every shot, every decision. Rival gangs attempted to intercept from higher ridges, but Cole's flanking maneuvers kept them off balance. Every ridge climbed, every canyon navigated, brought them closer to a temporary reprieve. The West demanded endurance, skill, and cunning, and Cole possessed all three. By afternoon, the gang emerged near a secluded oasis, water glinting under the sun. Horses drank deeply, men wiped sweat from their sunburned faces, and weapons were checked. Cole surveyed the landscape, noting possible threats. The law would regroup, and rival gangs might strike at any moment. Even in this moment of relief, tension persisted. Survival demanded preparation, vigilance, and unity. Cole called a council with his men. "We rest here briefly, then move under cover of night. We cannot linger. The Dalton gold makes us a target, and the West does not forgive hesitation. Trust each other, follow my lead, and we will survive. Disagreement weakens us. Obedience preserves life." The men nodded solemnly. Respect and fear intertwined, cementing loyalty through necessity and shared danger. Night fell, draping the desert in deep purples and blues. Fires were low and controlled, minimizing exposure. Cole sent scouts to circle the perimeter, checking for distant lights or movement. Every rustle, every whisper of wind, could indicate approaching danger. Even in moments of apparent calm, he remained vigilant. The West rewarded foresight, punishing those who faltered in complacency. Hours later, a faint noise in the distance drew Cole's attention. He raised a hand, signaling the gang to prepare. A rival gang, attempting to capitalize on their previous engagement, approached cautiously. Cole's strategy shifted instantly. He positioned his men on elevated ridges, giving them cover and line of sight. Timing and precision were paramount. One misstep could lead to disaster. The ensuing confrontation was fierce and deliberate. Gunfire cracked against rock. Dust spiraled into the air, and horses stamped nervously. Cole's commands were subtle but decisive. His men moved as extensions of his mind, flanking, retreating, and pressing forward in perfect coordination. Chaos reigned, yet control prevailed. Victory depended not on brute force alone, but on strategy, timing, and cohesion. After tense minutes, the rival gang retreated, thwarted by Cole's planning and the gang's discipline. The desert settled into uneasy quiet. Men huddled near low fires, catching breath and assessing weapons. Exhaustion weighed heavily, but relief softened the tension. Cole's eyes scanned the horizon, vigilant against unseen threats. The Dalton gold remained theirs, yet the West was a constant challenge. Cole allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. He considered the paths they had taken, the risks survived, and the cohesion maintained under pressure. Leadership had demanded every ounce of his skill, every second of attention, and yet he had prevailed. The West was harsh, but mastery of its dangers was possible for those clever, cautious, and resolute enough to endure. As dawn approached, the gang prepared for another move. Cole instructed careful navigation through hidden trails, avoiding the main paths where lawmen and rival gangs would anticipate them. Each step was a test of endurance, skill, and strategic foresight. Survival was not chance. It was preparation, coordination, and the ability to remain calm under relentless pressure. The desert stretched endlessly, a challenge and a companion. Cole rode at the front, alert to every sound, every shadow, every movement. His men followed closely, disciplined, aware that any lapse could mean death or capture. The West offered no second chances, no reprieve for hesitation. Every breath was earned, every mile a gamble, yet the Dalton gold remained secure, and the gang's cohesion intact. By mid-morning, the gang discovered a hidden canyon, unknown to most maps and eyes. Cole recognized it as the perfect refuge. Horses drank from a hidden spring, men checked weapons and supplies, and the Dalton gold was secured. Relief mingled with lingering tension. Survival had been earned through skill, planning, and unwavering focus. The West was harsh, but mastery was possible. Cole gathered his men for one final briefing. "We've survived the law, rival gangs, and countless dangers. But remember, survival is not permanent. The West is unforgiving. Trust each other, stay alert, and plan each move. Tonight we rest, tomorrow we move again. Our freedom is hard won, but it is ours. The men nodded, a mixture of fatigue, respect, and determination in their eyes. Night fell, the stars cold and indifferent. Fires were low, horses grazed quietly, and the gang settled into uneasy rest. Cole walked the perimeter, revolver in hand, reflecting on the trials of the past days. Leadership, strategy, loyalty, and skill had kept them alive. The West was harsh, but the gang had proven themselves capable of surviving its tests. The Dalton gold was safe, but the real treasure was the unity, resilience, and cunning that had carried them through danger. Dawn came slowly, painting the desert in soft gold. Cole and his gang mounted their horses, ready to move once more. They had survived the relentless chase, rival gangs, and the ever-present threat of the law. The West was unforgiving, but the gang had endured. Every decision, every maneuver, every ounce of skill had led them to this point. Survival was victory, and the Wild West had been conquered, not by might alone, but by intelligence, foresight, and courage. The desert stretched endlessly before them, a place of danger, beauty, and freedom. Cole McGraw led his gang forward, every sense alert, every decision calculated. The Dalton gold remained theirs, but more importantly, they had survived. And in the West, survival was the greatest triumph of all. The sun climbed high, casting golden rays over the rugged desert as Cole McGraw and his gang moved cautiously toward safer ground. Every ridge, every gullied pass was a reminder of the dangers they had faced and those yet to come. Dust clung to their clothing, and sweat streaked their sunburned faces. Yet despite exhaustion, a quiet determination propelled them forward. Survival had become instinct, and the desert their proving ground. Jasper rode beside Cole, still tense from previous skirmishes. "Cole, do you think there's ever a day when this ends?" he asked quietly, glancing at the distant horizon. Cole's gaze never wavered. "Maybe," he replied, voice calm but firm. "But until then, we survive, adapt, and stay ahead. That's all the West guarantees. Every day we ride, every choice we make, we write our own fate." The gang navigated a narrow canyon, careful to avoid obvious trails. Cole's knowledge of the land was their greatest advantage. Hidden paths, overgrown ridges, and rocky depressions became shields against both lawmen and rival gangs. The Dalton gold weighed heavily, but more pressing was the responsibility of keeping his men alive. Every choice, every turn, carried consequences, and Cole carried that burden with unyielding resolve. As the afternoon sun beat down, Cole scanned the horizon and spotted movement on a distant ridge. Rival eyes, calculating and opportunistic, were watching. He gestured for the gang to dismount and take cover. Horses shifted nervously, ears flicking toward the threat. Cole's revolver was ready, eyes sharp. The West tested courage, but it also tested patience, cunning, and intuition. Today would be another trial. The rival gang moved cautiously, unsure of Cole's numbers and positions. Using subtle hand signals, Cole directed his men to advantageous positions on rocks and ledges. Timing was everything. A single premature shot could alert the enemies or compromise their position. Cole's calm, measured decisions contrasted the frantic energy of the approaching rivals. Every second counted, every move was calculated. Shots rang out across the canyon, echoing and bouncing off jagged walls. Cole's men responded with precision, covering each other as they advanced. The battle was a mix of strategy and instinct, a deadly game played in dust, sunlight, and shadow. Cole felt a familiar surge of adrenaline, but his mind remained sharp, calculating every next step. Survival demanded both courage and clarity. The rivals, realizing they were outmaneuvered, began to retreat. Cole allowed them to withdraw, conserving energy and avoiding unnecessary risk. The gang regrouped, checking weapons and accounting for every man. No lives were lost, and the Dalton gold remained untouched. Relief mingled with exhaustion, a reminder of how perilous every venture in the West truly was. Cole led the gang to a hidden spring tucked deep in the canyon, a place unknown to most maps. Horses drank deeply, men wiped sweat from their eyes, and tension eased slightly. Cole allowed himself a rare moment of reflection, thinking of past raids, battles, and escapes. Each victory had come at a cost. Each survival required vigilance, and each day had demanded more than mere courage. It demanded skill, foresight, and unbreakable trust. Evening fell, painting the desert in hues of deep purple and orange. Fires were lit sparingly, flickering against rocks to avoid drawing attention. Cole walked the perimeter, revolver ready, eyes scanning every shadow. The West offered no reprieve, no guarantee beyond the current moment. Yet, as he watched his men rest, he felt a rare sense of pride. Loyalty, discipline, and courage had carried them through the day, and would carry them further. As night deepened, Cole spoke quietly to his closest men. "We've survived countless dangers and outrun the law, but we cannot be reckless. The West tests all of us, every day. The Dalton gold is safe for now, but the true prize is our survival, our freedom, and the bond we share." The men nodded, exhausted but attentive. Their trust in Cole had been forged in fire, and now it burned stronger than ever. The following morning, the gang prepared for a long ride to a rumored safe haven, far from familiar trails. The journey would test endurance, navigation, and patience. Cole led at the front, alert to every ridge and canyon, every gust of wind or distant sound. The desert was alive, every shadow a potential threat. Yet the gang moved with purpose, disciplined, and ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. By midday, the desert stretched endlessly, a sea of heat, dust, and rocks. Cole encouraged his men to conserve energy, checking on horses and supplies. The Dalton gold was heavy, but he reminded them that their survival mattered more than wealth. In the West, fortune could be replaced, life could not. Every mile traveled, every ridge crossed, reinforced their unity and reliance on each other. Late in the afternoon, a distant storm rolled across the horizon. Dark clouds gathered, and wind began to stir the dust into swirling columns. Cole assessed the risk carefully. Riding through a storm was dangerous, but taking cover too early could expose them to rivals. He decided to press on, navigating the safest ridges while avoiding open valleys. The West tested decision-making as much as courage, and Cole's instincts were razor-sharp. As night fell, the storm broke, bringing rain that slicked rocks and muddied trails. The gang found shelter in a small cave, the sound of rainfall a welcome respite from the tension of pursuit. Horses huddled together, damp but safe. Cole's eyes scanned the entrance, ever vigilant, yet he allowed himself a brief moment to appreciate the beauty of the desert under rain, a rare peace amidst chaos. Morning came with clearer skies, and the gang prepared to continue their journey. Cole had plotted a path through hidden valleys, ridges, and brush, minimizing exposure to potential enemies. Every step forward was calculated, every decision deliberate. They moved like shadows, blending with the terrain, avoiding the obvious paths where danger might lie. The West rewarded cunning as much as courage, and Cole led with mastery. By midday, they reached a secluded plateau, high above the surrounding desert. The view stretched endlessly, a reminder of both freedom and isolation. Cole gathered his men, sharing a simple meal, checking weapons, and tending to horses. The Dalton gold remained safe, their bodies exhausted, yet their spirits resilient. Each man understood that survival required more than skill. It required trust, discipline, and unwavering focus. As they descended toward safer ground, Cole reflected on the journey. The Dalton gold was valuable, but the lessons of endurance, strategy, and unity were priceless. The West demanded respect, vigilance, and intelligence. Every skirmish, every pursuit, every narrow escape had reinforced the bonds of loyalty, courage, and trust among the gang. They were survivors, masters of their own fate in a world of danger. By evening, the gang found a final refuge, a hidden canyon far from known trails. Horses drank from a hidden stream, fires burned low, and men finally allowed themselves some rest. Cole walked among them, revolver ready, eyes scanning the horizon. He had led them through the chaos, ensuring survival where others would have failed. The Dalton gold was secure, but more importantly, they had survived the unforgiving West together. As stars glittered overhead, the men settled into camp, exhausted but relieved. Cole finally allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The days of pursuit, ambush, and strategy were behind them. For now, the West remained dangerous, but they had proven capable of surviving its tests. Every decision, every maneuver, every risk taken had led to this moment of fragile peace. Cole gazed toward the horizon, imagining new routes, future heists, and the freedom of riding through the open desert. The Dalton gold was a prize, but survival and unity were the true treasures. The West was unforgiving, but for those clever, disciplined, and resolute enough to endure, it could be mastered. Cole McGraw had led his gang through peril, proving that skill, courage, and trust were the ultimate keys to surviving the Wild West.